Recording in progress.
You kick this off. You are.
Okay, so I thought we would have this series. It was going to be upstairs in the studio, but I thought given that we have Mia here, it'd be better in the log cabin with the fire on. But the main reason is, obviously we've seen eSIMs growing over the past year, but I think there have been some clear trends that we've seen in terms of opportunities for MNOs and MVNOs in the eSIM space, and they're probably, I think it'd be good for us to share some of our experience of actually doing these projects and managing these projects, as opposed to just being reported to or going to a conference and hearing what people are talking about. Because, I mean, I don't know about you, but I see a lot of things happening that are not being talked about in conferences, and it's good to get them out there and talk about them. So I think that's enough for one video.
I think so too. And speaking about conferences, we haven't really been on many conferences lately. And the ones we've been to has been virtual. And I can't say they're as good as the in-person ones. So I'm really excited to start discussing eSIM again with the wider community.
Yes, a year after we tried to do it last time.
Well, life came in between. COVID came in between.
Not that we ever thought we would still be here. But anyway, there we go. So, good. Well, I think it is safe to say that just like COVID, eSIM is here to stay. And what is nice about it is it doesn't, a lot of the technologies that have come, like GPRS, for example, took probably about 10 years to educate people to go from, a per minute based billing for something they knew to a new form of billing to something that was new. But vouchers were everywhere. If you wanted to go to a restaurant or a bar and see the menu, you needed a voucher. If you needed to get a train ticket, anything you needed to do now needed a voucher. So every part of the population knows how to use them and how to install them. SMDP Plus makes it very, very easy. And yeah, I think they are not only here to stay, but it seems to be, for me, the only area of SIM sales that's growing. I don't know if that's your impression as well.
Well, I would say it's definitely an area of SIM sales that is growing, and I can say that the interest from the MNOs and probably more so the MVNOs is just increasing. And I know when I was speaking about eSIM, it's 2019. It feels like it was yesterday, but it was a long time ago when we started bringing this up in conferences, etc. The interest was fairly low. But I think also because the operators themselves, they saw it a bit of a threat. Some operators might still do, but now when it becomes more available, we saw the new Apple phone coming out with a dual eSIM support. The general public is starting to understand the benefits of eSIM. The interest from the operators has just increased. So it's very exciting to see. And it's a way of enabling telecommunication services for many more people as well. But I think that's going to be another episode when we talk about the digital divide and digital equity. But I see eSIM playing a part in that as well.
Yes, and it's a very important point you just picked up as well, because a lot of people probably won't have picked up that the new iPhone 13 that was launched is not only eSIM, not only dual SIM, and that it's got a physical SIM and an eSIM, but it has a physical SIM and dual eSIMs. And this is, it has gone from being a threat to being a massive opportunity, because right now we have gone from a concept of having one SIM per phone being kind of the model that the world's stats on how many phones are out there are. But now we're moving to a model where I don't know anybody in any part of the world who hasn't found a use for having two SIMs. And it solves a massive problem. It solves a problem of cannibalization of the MNO, MVNO, because a lot of these SIMs, you can still keep your original SIM. But also it solves a problem for the MNOs of, I know it's a dodgy it's a difficult subject, because a lot of MNOs kind of wants to say that they've got the best coverage, and at the end of the day, you've got to remember that a lot of these things are constrained by the physicality of where you can put your cells. And where they are. So at the end of the day, no matter how good your network is, there will be people who are served better by one network or another. And this solves the churn problem that creates, because people can just go and get a bundle on another SIM. And given now that this is our kind of lifeline for communication, I think the money that we've all saved traveling, going to bars and other socializing, is, it can more be made up from another SIM, but it gives us the ability to connect everywhere, solves a problem. It is, it's a fantastic opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think from an operator side as well, the main focus from the operator sides, and we see a lot of operators operating that way, should be on the end consumer, to make sure that the end consumer, as long as the end consumer is happy, there's going to be less churn. Yes. And you want to provide them with the best possible connectivity solutions, the easiest onboarding to your network, the most cost-effective services, and eSIM enables a lot of that as well. But then it's always to kind of talk about roaming and what's going to happen with roaming, because it makes it easier for a traveler or for a business traveler to simply load their phone up with a few eSIMs for all the destinations, and they never need to use roaming again. But then again, it's the same playing field for all the operators out there. And we are seeing that operators that have launched eSIM and has done it well, and I'm not talking mainly about those operators who have launched eSIM, and we talk physical eSIMs where they print out the QR code and they give it to you at the counter, but the ones that actually really managed that digital onboarding of the customer in a good way, they've monetized great on it. And I think a lot of operators are going to look at those use cases as those digital onboarding procedures, and they're going to follow that. So I'm very excited to see more operators following in those footsteps.
Yes, well, that is an area that I think is interesting, that a lot of people are struggling with. For the consumer, it's all benefit in that, I've always had two SIMs, just because if I've been consulting on a site, I don't know if my main SIM was going to work, and sometimes you can have problems. But yeah, people, I sometimes I'd even have the problem of finding that other SIM. And if it's an eSIM, that problem's gone away. But for the operators, I think while a lot of the customer support problems have gone away, i.e. I've lost my SIM, can you replace it? That shouldn't happen. But if it does, it's a very simple digital process. But a lot of operators and virtual operators are really struggling with this digital process, aren't they? I know we've all had a kick in the butt in terms of digital acceleration, but if you've had a physical SIM for decades that's integrated into processes and systems that are decades old, shoving a cloud-based system into your, they are struggling.
But I think looking at the market now and looking at the customer UX as one example, some of the vendors out there, they have done the customer UX perfectly. Many of the operators are not there yet, and I understand why. There's a bigger operation, there's more hoops to jump through, there's a lot more testing and sign off, etc. But looking at some of the vendors, they've really perfected that user journey, and that is something that I think we can all look at and take some value from.
Yes.
How to best onboard customers to your network. And this opens up, like eSIM opens up completely new revenue streams as well, and different partnerships that can be made. Because in the telecommunication industry, it's all about finding the right stakeholders and perfect these ecosystem in which partnerships really thrives and grows. So if we take off travel industry, for example, who now starting to finally, thank God, start to pick up again, you can start including stakeholders that was not really an option before because of the distribution of the products, etc. Now they can become service providers or telecommunication providers themselves by including eSIM. So they can keep their customers, their travelers, their policyholders, etc., connected in a way that they couldn't do before. So I see there's going to be a lot of take-ups there as well.
Oh yeah, it's just massive. The concept of having to put, even just packaging in the travel space, if you tried to gain passengers in a physical travel environment by, I mean, some people did not silly things, but the only things that they saw that they could do, which was putting a SIM in every physical package, and that's a very expensive. If you only get 1 in 10 take up, your SIMs cost 10 times as much. If you only get 1 in 100 take up, your SIMs cost 100 times as much. You can put as many vouchers as you like. And on top of it, to make it simpler, I mean, we've even had customers who are putting the code to scan underneath. So you scan your SIM and then you scan to set up your data settings, and you're off. You don't have to wait. But yeah, and the travel, I think. So what is interesting is that this market is not just me and you who probably had multiple SIMs. It's people who before they lived in a place where they could commute, and now they're no longer commuting. And so there's just so many people who have moved out of London into the country, out of New York back to where they came from, saving huge amounts of money on probably rent as well. But also people within the European Union, well, because of Brexit, a lot of people have actually gone back to where they were anyway. But even with the with the situation that's going on, if you don't have to, I mean, I know lots of French, Spanish, Italian people who have been tied to desks in Canary Wharf for years, working from their home in Madrid for 3 months, summer, and God knows why you'd want to do that at 40 degrees, but. Well, I do know why you'd want to do that, because you then go out and you're in Madrid as opposed to...
You do, because you're currently stuck in a shed with a big fire on it. So
It's lovely and warm in here. I would rather be here than in a terrace in Madrid enjoying tapas anytime. Yeah, as the winter draws in, I think we all realize the benefits of moving. And again, I mean, even my US colleagues, a lot of them we forget that a lot of the US is either, I mean, I joke, it's either -30 or +30 for 6 months of the year. And, if you live in an area that freezes over the winter, you need to get your fix. Well, now you can actually go and work for a month or 2 months or 3 months from Mexico, Puerto Vallarta, or wherever it is. It's and the eSIM is just making that possible, and it's even, I'd say, bridging the physical boundaries and language barriers, because if you do travel, getting a local SIM didn't just have a physical barrier. You know what you want, but going into a shop and expressing it. I mean, I'll be very honest with you. In the UK, at least, I don't know if this is just an exception, but communicating with the 12-year-olds in a shop, sometimes in the exact same language, with no cultural barriers whatsoever. Yeah, we are both from 2 kilometers, 10 kilometers away from there. It's quite difficult. So I joke, but I mean, yeah, even going from, within Europe or the US where the language is the same, but you imagine you land in Hong Kong or China, and it's the...
I don't have to imagine. I've been there, done that. And then when you finally manage to get hold of a SIM card that happens to fit your phone, which is great, then you're halfway there. Then you need to try to, in the airport or on the bus from the airport, trying to fiddle up that little SIM place. You break your earring, or you're trying to find something to stick into your phone to get that SIM out. And then halfway through the trip, you lose your normal SIM. So then you start stressing about that, because then you need to get a replacement SIM when you get back. But with eSIM, that won't happen. So you will be able to, in that case, I know when I was traveling a lot back in 2019, and then I was already into the eSIM game, I had an eSIM for every destination. So I looked in my phone and I can see I had my US eSIM, I had the Spain eSIM, I had a Vietnamese eSIM. So wherever I went, I can just activate that particular service. And I was fine. So instead of saving those fridge magnets or shot glasses, whatever you save from these destinations that you go, I just managed to buy an eSIM for those. And that made my travels a lot better. So
that's the new packaging idea. They should come with a little magnet.
Then that distribution comes on again. So no.
Little magnet with the barcode. But it is interesting, because I do remember, a few times people seeing me swearing in airports and on planes. I had a little SD card.
Would you? Do you swear?
Yeah. Not quite as impressive as some people I've seen.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
And,
Sorry, keep going.
But yeah, I mean, and English doesn't really sound as good as someone going ballistic in Italian or French, for example.
No.
But yeah, I mean, two things that come to mind is being in a plane, trying to get my SIM, and I used a little SD card holder, and it just went like that. And nano SIMs everywhere. And this is when you realize why we all catch COVID in a plane, because even in a nice plane, in the nice part of a plane, you start going down the seat backs and you go, seriously? This hasn't been cleaned. And then the other one I remember is just in the luggage, I'd put it in the front of my trolley bag, and someone would run into you and it would explode all over your trolley bag. And it's like, oh, please.
Seems everywhere. No, but I think, and we're probably going to go more into depth about this another time, but there is so many pros looking at the various aspects of this. One is the pros for the actual operator. So we're looking at financial distribution, all these various things that could potentially benefit the operator by going eSIM. And then we have, the benefits from the OEM, looking at the devices that they can create if they skip the physical SIM slot and just go full eSIM. There is a completely new, both with design and functionality of the device. And then you have the benefits for the end user. And that's when we talked about, exploding physical SIM cards everywhere and the ease of connecting wherever you go and easy onboarding. And also, from a marketing standpoint, all the endless possibilities that you have of marketing your solution and getting that direct onboarding, whether it's with single use eSIM or group QR code, the opportunities are endless. So I could talk about eSIM for a very long time, but I might just go quiet there and let you talk.
Well, that's part of the reason. Yeah, I thought it'd be good to record some of them. In that case, and then when you repeat yourself, I can just show you. No, I'm only joking. But you did hit on an interesting point in that I remember 10, 15 years ago doing projects with the network operators for things like mobile apps and doing the first provisioning settings. And I always found it amazing when a network operator was using an aggregator to send out the messages, because it was easier than going to their own IT department and sending out the messages. And not only that, then they had no way of knowing who they'd sent stuff to, because sometimes they'd use this aggregator who gave them a CSV file, and then they'd use another aggregator who put it on an access database. And everyone knows when you put something in an access database, it's gone forever. Mm-hmm. I'm only teasing. But you had these 20 different formats. So there was an integration project just to get round the shortcuts from not having to do an integration project. And I'm seeing that all over again. I'm speaking to people who are saying, literally, we have these old systems which we've had for decades, and and I think this is the thing that you hit on earlier, where you said that there are a lot of people who have very slick solutions, but generally, I think a lot of people are stuck probably doing not so slick solutions and then trying to get system integrators and middleware in, when really it would just be much better to go with these much slicker cloud-based solutions. But then you've got the problem of integrating them. And this is what we've been spending most of our time doing, is basically getting around those systems. It's the equivalent of taking that CSV database, et cetera, and putting them together in a database that's in a location that a network operator has access to and can control, and can retrieve that information. And if that cloud, bless them, a lot of corporate IT departments are still struggling with the concept of cloud, and I get why, right? Because if it does get hacked, and they do get hacked, then they could compromise the whole system. And so what we've been doing is creating systems where you basically take all that information and then put it in a sort of a safe house. But and I think that is ultimately, as you're saying, the customer experience and the cost of actually managing, distributing, etc., and the benefits that you get of cost, and you can clearly see the MNOs and the MVNOs who are using slick solutions and those who are not.
Yeah. And I know, and just as an end comment, because I know we're running out of time today, and I think that is going to be the key as well for the operators. So we're all talking about eSIM might potentially cause churn, etc., or new solutions going to cause churn. But when we talk about eSIM here, it's not about a price game in a sense. It's about a consumer usability game.
Yep.
So if you provide good service, why would a consumer churn from your network? And eSIM provides you with those opportunities to even better the experience that they're having today. So I think operators who are really focusing on the user journey itself and the support and the care of their customers, they shouldn't have anything to worry about. They should just be very happy about eSIM.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think we've come to the time limit, and also it's actually getting very hot in here.
In Sweden, we call it bastu. It's a sauna.
Yes.
So you made a sauna for yourself.
Is this the time when you go and jump in a freezing cold lake or something?
Yeah, and you hit each other with pine sticks.
Yeah.
But that's the more advanced version, I think.
Yeah, I'm not quite ready for that.
I'll leave that story for another time.
Yeah, I'll go and jump in the Thames now, and I'm sure I'll find something to birch myself with.
Enjoy.
Okay, well, thanks for that. And let's pick this up again in the next one.
Cheers, Christian. Bye.